Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to Be Your Own Hero. Please subscribe, like, and make a comment in the comment section and turn on the notifications as well. And I don't know about where you're at in the country, but here in California, Southern California, where I'm at, it is absolutely beautiful. And Gregory and I were talking. We both took some nice walks. He took a lot longer walk than I did, but I walked the furthest that I've walked since getting cancer. And I walked. We have a hill on our street, and so I'm walking up and down it. And I walked probably a little over a mile for the first time today. I'm trying to get strengthen my leg, and yeah, I'm really happy with the progress. So, it's just a matter of pushing every day and trying to get better every day. And it was just, it's absolutely gorgeous today. And when I'm walking out there and to look up at the blue sky and just appreciate nature and see the things that are just really awesome. It's just I just love taking that in. And so yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. No new health updates as far as testing goes, but I am really excited about this interview today. It's with a gentleman named Gregory Proctor from San Antonio, Texas, and Gregory has an amazing story, and I'm so happy that he's here. And at this time, I'd like to introduce to everyone Gregory Proctor.
How's it
Gregory,
going, Mark?
fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Well, listen, thanks for having me on your program. I certainly appreciate it. And obviously, for me, I enjoy sharing my journey, my cancer journey. And it's been one of adversity, it's been one of challenges, it's been one of perseverance. And, what I always tell people is just because you're struck with bad news doesn't necessarily mean that you have to look at it from a negative aspect. I took cancer on in a very positive aspect of my life. It pretty much humbled me as an individual, and it allowed for me to learn so much more about myself than what I originally thought I knew.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I mean, I'm so happy and so thrilled, and I embrace every single day, and I know you do as well. And
Mhm.
so let's get into it. Let's talk about what you were doing before cancer, and let's get into you know the nuts and bolts here.
Sure, absolutely. So before I was diagnosed with cancer, my background being, I've been an entrepreneur. That's how a lot of people know me, particularly on the project management, project control side of the government and commercial spaces, where I spent a lot of time working for a lot of different entities, Fortune 500 companies, government entities, pretty much here domestically and abroad. And from that, I ended up, working with some friends of mine, some old high school colleagues that I went to school with, and we ended up spinning off a venture called TrueSpot, which is a mobile app company. And then on top of that, I'm also a podcaster, very much just like you. So yeah, I've had a very fulfilling life, prior to being diagnosed. A lot of these things were at different inception phases. My management consultancy firm was very much well underway. We had been operating that business for about 4 years. Uh, the mobile app company was pretty much just starting to raise capital, and we were having to put a lot of that on hold when I was diagnosed with cancer. And then, of course, the podcast was becoming a worldwide phenomenon. We had recorded 145 episodes. We were talking to people literally all over the world, and things were just really getting ready to take off at the time that I was diagnosed. So,
Wow.
so it was a lot of exciting things going on prior to my diagnosis, and of course, all of those things had to be put on the shelf.
When cancer knocks on your door, you have to answer and address cancer. period.
That is
I mean,
correct.
you have to, you can't just say, oh, hey, come back in 6 months or
Right.
come back in a year. It does not work that way.
Right.
When
Right.
cancer knocks on your door, you better be ready to answer and you better be ready to walk through that door,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because otherwise, you know, so many things can happen. And that's such a critical time.
Yeah.
So, what happened exactly, if you could talk about, what happened when you got diagnosed and how you took that?
Sure. I think the first thing, to kind of put it all in context is I was dealing with a lot of lower back pain, and I didn't know exactly if that was something that was self-induced or if it was something that, I had injured my back and just, didn't take care of it properly. But I was in so much pain where I just felt like I couldn't really walk, I couldn't sit down, and it was just very hurtful. And the first couple of times I went into the doctor, they said, "Well, we'll give you a steroid shot, inflammation shot. These will be things that hopefully will take care of some of the inflammation and it will allow for you to somewhat recover." And I just felt like, my God, these shots are doing nothing for me. I said, I've got to see somebody else that has better specialized skills in dealing with the root cause of the problem. So I went and saw a spine management doctor, and he said, let's go in and have an MRI done. They detected what they thought was a mass at the time. They followed back up with the second MRI and validated the conclusiveness of that tumor, which was on my right hand side, upper hip area, and it was across my sciatic nerve. And what I realized at that point in time was, oh my God, I've got something now that we don't even know if it's cancerous or benign, but I know I'm in a lot of pain. And unfortunately, at the time, my wife was out of the country. I'm here at home by myself and trying to deal with all of these different, aspects of doctors and appointments and terminology and things that I had just never even really educated myself on. And by the time my wife got back in country and we had our follow-up appointment, and the doctor basically said, it looks like you have multiple myeloma. And of course, again, what is multiple myeloma? I mean, things were being thrown at me, being a person that I consider myself to be fairly savvy, fairly knowledgeable, and understand, quite a lot of things in the world today. Never heard of multiple myeloma, didn't know it was a blood cancer, and of course started to immerse myself into not only the learning aspect, but really trying to grasp a complete understanding of the different types, what type I had, the things that I needed to do to kind of circumvent, the situation that I was in, as far as how did I contract the disease? Was it something that I'd done in my past? Was it something that I had induced into my body? So I mean, all of these things start to come into your mindset, and you begin to realize that you're dealing with something that is so complex, that's so overwhelming, that is so involved with your life, that you just have to sit back and you say, wait a minute, I cannot do all of this on my own. And so my wife and I decided very early on that she would become the caregiver and she would deal with all of the things, being interfacing with the doctors, dealing with the laboratory work, dealing with all of the things that we knew that were very important. And I would deal with the insurance companies and dealing with advocating for myself and beginning to deal with a lot of these other adversities head on, as well as going through the treatment and going through all of the things that I knew that were going to be a very, challenging ride for me. So that's kind of how it all started. We were shocked, we were overwhelmed, we were taken back, very distraught, early on. And like I said, we both kind of just cried about it and prayed about it, and really tried to stay focused on the objective of getting to the other side. Because like I said, when you dealt with the bad, string of information. It's all about what you do next, to move yourself forward versus being trapped with a dark cloud or being held with all this negativity inside your body and realizing that there's nothing for you to do. There's a lot you can do. And I realized, number one, getting educated was something that I needed to bring myself up to speed on. Number two is making sure my insurance companies were going to cover me the way that I needed for them to cover me. Number three was preparing myself psychologically and emotionally for all the chemicals that were needing to go through my body, because some of those things really put you in a fog. They have a lot of adverse side effects to your body. And I guess the fourth and fifth thing was making sure I had a great network and support system. And the fifth one was really putting myself back in what I would say in the hands of the Lord Jesus Christ and rekindling my faith with him.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Yeah. You mentioned so many important things
Mm-hmm.
when you get diagnosed with cancer, and you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned one thing that I'm super big on in our group. Cancer Conquering Community is super big on, and that's being an advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could talk about that, and what prompted you to realize that so early on, that's fantastic.
Well, Mark, I grew up in a family where, my dad and my mom, they were middle class. They worked very hard. They taught my brother and I a lot of great qualities in life, beyond survivalship, beyond respect and trust and integrity, and it helped kind of instill, a circumstance for who we are as individuals to make sure that if we're dealt with any adversity or challenges in our life, we understand that we are built for this. We are going to take these things head on. And so, as a part of me being an advocate for myself, I knew right up front no one else could really support and deal with me physically and emotionally the way that I could deal with myself. And so that was situation number one, that I had to come to that realization and ensure that mentally I was prepared to deal with it, because I'll be honest with you. The first thing that came out of the gate that was very harsh was, you have multiple myeloma, IgA, kappa, stage 3. We've got to get you started on treatment right away. We got to do this. And I'm thinking like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. I'm like, I don't even know what language you're speaking. I mean, help me understand. And so within like 48 hours of meeting my oncologist, I was already on chemo, and I was struggling, to try to, you know, gain the knowledge and gain the admiration that I needed. And so the avocation started right then and right there by talking with the nurses, talking with the doctors, and saying, okay, what are you guys really about to do to me? Because I hadn't done any research at that point, and I didn't know what was going to happen. You're putting chemicals into your body. What's going to happen next? And so they sat down with my wife and I, and they went through every single drug. This is what it is. This is what it does. This is the side effects. And so we just started taking that information and started to build upon it, because, we also had to deal with the fact of the insurance companies basically saying, we will cover this, but we won't cover that. And, the whole circumvent of fighting with the insurance company, they won't pay for the drug costs, but they'll pay for this, they'll pay for that. They won't pay for the office visits. And so it just became a real, you know, bad situation. And it required education, it required knowledge, it required a thirst for surviving. And that became the mental fortitude that my wife and I had to ensure that we would get on the other side of this. And we just went out full force, educating ourselves, challenging the assumptions, asking questions, and really pushing the envelope, because we knew that I wanted to get back my quality of life.
Man, I love that. I absolutely love that, because when I got diagnosed, um,
Mm-hmm.
my oncologist, you know, sat my wife and I down and basically said, your cancer is so bad, I can't cure you.
Mm.
And immediately in my mind, I wasn't surprised, because I had been doing so many tests up to that point in time. But when she said that, it triggered in my mind, okay, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready, and I'm ready to move.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a plan in my head that I started moving on. And so what you're telling me, it's so refreshing to hear,
Right.
because so many people, I tell them, I have people coming to me literally every day. Hey, I got a friend who has cancer, or I have cancer, or
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I know you do too.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, you know, take their cancer diagnosis and they kind of ball up and they withdraw. And I think that is, to me, in my opinion, I think that's the wrong thing to do. I think the right thing to do is to just realize that, hey, number one, your life is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Your life is going to change,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to be part of that change in your life. It's your life. Nobody else is going to care more than you or I about our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors are there, and they uh, have so much knowledge, but they're not God. They are
Right.
not God. They don't know how long you're going to live. So it's up to us to provide the will part. Hey, I'm going to live. I
Mm-hmm.
want to live. I have to live.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a book that I talked about a couple of few interviews ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great book called Radical Remissions by Kelly Turner.
Great.
And that's one of the biggest points that she says is just that will, the absolute will to live.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just so critical, along with a positive attitude.
Right.
It's just so important. And we haven't, we just met each other, but I already know that, you know you're a warrior, man. I love that. I
Yeah.
love connecting with other people that have a like mind,
Mm-hmm.
and are willing to do the things necessary to get better,
Yeah.
and because it takes drive,
Mm-hmm.
and you're an athlete,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I've been involved with athletics all my life, and you know that teaches you something, and if you can draw lessons from your different life experiences,
Right.
that is the thing that you use when you get that cancer diagnosis. All that accumulated knowledge that you've had throughout your life, that is the time
Mm-hmm.
to put it into action. and,
Absolutely.
and I think, and you would say, and I think you'd agree with me,
Mm-hmm.
that diagnosis, it's so important to act and to
Correct.
move,
Correct.
and to make things happen,
Mm-hmm.
because this is your life,
Yep.
and it's so important if you want to live. I mean, when my oncologist told me that she couldn't cure me, it didn't bother me. It didn't faze me at all,
Mm-hmm.
because I have too many things on this earth that I have to do, that I
Right.
want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's driven me. And,
Yeah.
and last year at this time, I didn't know, what life would be like.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know. I know I'm going to live. I know I'm going to connect with so many incredible people, such as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really life changing,
Yeah.
absolutely life changing. And I'm, for that, I am so thankful, because it's allowed me to really see what's really, really important in life. and,
You're
and I
absolutely right.
know I know that's the same for you as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, dealing with multiple myeloma, it puts things into into a perspective where you start to think about, like you said, the priorities. What is significantly, important. I mean, like I said earlier on, I had all these great things going on in my life, but there is nothing more important than my survivalship, my health. And so
Absolutely.
it didn't matter if we had Joe Montana on the fence to get ready to invest money in our company. It didn't matter if I had, all these great contracts coming in. None of that mattered at the time when the diagnosis hit. I pretty much told all of my colleagues, I said, look, I am out. I'm like, you guys can continue. You have to figure this out on your own, but I am out. I said, I cannot focus on these things right now. It is not a priority as long as I am in the circumstance and situation that I was in at that moment in time, you know?
Absolutely. And Gregory, what I want to do is I want to bring you back for another session at another time
Sure.
because I think you have so much more to say,
Oh, yeah.
so much more to add, and I'm excited to hear it. Uh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap things up right now. I'd like to thank you for
Sure.
joining me
Absolutely.
as my guest, and I really appreciate your time.
Mhm.
Truly appreciate it. Uh, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero, and make the most out of life. We only get one life,
Mhm.
and that's it. So let's make the most of it. Make the most out of every day,
Mhm.
every hour, every minute, every second, and every breath. And thank you once again for joining us at To Be Your Own Hero. And please like, subscribe, click the notifications, and have a phenomenal week. And we will see you next week. Thank you so much.